Well, hello again and welcome to the next step. One more time, we're going to launch ourselves. We're going to drag ourselves into the frightening world of high tech. I'll tell you something. I feel terribly unprepared for this because when you start researching these kinds of things, you realize just how far behind the curve we all are, and how us ordinary human beings have been left in the dark. And today, we're going to feel our way around in the arena of the unbelievable amount of research and development that has been done to understand and to control the mind and our thinking. And I have with me today the wonderful and astute and handsome Mr. Brett Hughes. And I think I'll let him start out with some information that he brought with him today about this subject.
So technology sounds all well and good until the Pentagon comes in and wants to change our brains.
That's right.
Through a communicable disease. And we have a little video that was done in 2005, brought to us by our friends at the Pentagon, discussing how they will release a communicable disease, a virus, through the general population of, let's say, Afghanistan. So they say that will change people's minds to make them not become or not be fanatics, religious extremists.
Oh, that would help, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so anyway, if we can go ahead and play that first clip, it would be most enlightening.
Especially since they're the only place with religious fanatics.
Excuse me, on the left over here, we have individuals who are religious fundamentalists, religious fanatics, and this is the expression, RT-PCR, real-time PCR expression of the VMAT2 gene. Over here, we have individuals. So let me complete. So over here, we have individuals who are not particularly fundamentalist, not particularly religious, and you can see there's a much reduced expression of this particular gene, the VMAT2 gene. Another evidence that supports our hypothesis for the development of this approach.
What you see here is by spreading this virus, we're going to eliminate individuals from donning on a bomb vest and going into a market and blowing up the market.
So our hypothesis is that these are fanatical people, that they have overexpression of the VMAT2 gene, and that by vaccinating them against this, we'll eliminate this behavior. So we have some very, very remarkable data in this next slide. Here we have two brain scans. These are fMRIs. These are two different individuals with different levels of expression of VMAT2. On top is an individual who's a religious fanatic, an individual, and we've repeated this numerous times, that has high levels of VMAT2. Now, this individual down here who had low levels of the VMAT2 gene, this individual would self-describe as not particularly religious. In each case, these individuals were read a religious text. This individual lit up the right middle frontal gyrus, shown here, and that's a part of the brain that's associated with theory of mind. It's a part of the brain that has to do with intents and beliefs and desires. In marked contrast, here's an individual who would not particularly self-describe as religious, and when they're read a religious text, what you see is that this part of the brain called the anterior insula lights up. This is a part of the brain that's associated with disgust or displeasure on hearing something.
So you're suggesting I take a CT scan with me when I'm evaluating people to determine whether I put a bullet in their head?
So the data that I'm presenting here supports the concept that we're proposing, and I think that we would not propose to do CT scans or fMRIs on individuals out in the hinterlands of Afghanistan. The virus would immunize against this VMAT2 gene, and that would have the effect that you see here, which is it's essentially to turn a fanatic into a normal person. And we think that will have major effects in the Middle East.
How would you suggest that this is going to be dispersed? Aerosol?
Well, so the present plan and the tests that we've done so far have used respiratory viruses such as flu or rhinoviruses, and we believe that that's a satisfactory way to get the exposure of the largest part of the population. Most of us, of course, have been exposed to both of those viruses, and we're quite confident that this will be a very successful approach.
This is fascinating. What's the name of this proposal?
Yeah, so the name of this project is FunVax, which is the vaccine for religious fundamentalism.
Do you have a proposal already?
The proposal has just been submitted, and I think that the data that I have shown you today would support the development of this project, and we think it has great promise.
Anyway, as you can notice, that was not April 1st, but April 13th in 2005. Like 7 years ago. And so, what could possibly go wrong?
Oh, who knows? I just can't
proposing
imagine. Seems like a great idea to me.
To put out a virus into the general population of Afghanistan that would attack people's intense beliefs and desires or the capability for such in their brains, curing the fundamentalism. And of course, it's not selective to people who are crazy or have a bomb strapped to their chest at the time,
of course,
perhaps.
Right, yeah.
It's to the people who have a baby maybe strapped to their chest,
sure.
or who's farming or something like that. And of course, magically, the virus would stay within the borders of Afghanistan because viruses just can't cross borders, as we all know.
No, of course not. They're not licensed to do that.
And so when the Pentagon's proposing to, 7 years ago, to put out a virus into the general population, I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
And through a communicable disease, just like a respiratory illness,
sure.
a virus, it just spreads out through the population.
Yeah, I mean, that seems
sounds pretty
perfectly
smart.
rational to me. I mean, and we need to understand, the guy's talking about religious fundamentalism. The brain does not know the difference between religions or, it only is registering, like he said, for one thing, he said beliefs and desires. And what is basically registering is the passion. And so what you're eliminating is not the religion, but the intensity of feeling that people have. And, that's, and you're targeting it across the board, whoever catches this.
Yeah,
and
it sounds
so
like
it doesn't matter what religion they are.
They said the largest part of the population for Afghanistan,
Right.
Of course, which would
sure.
obviously stay there.
Right.
Actually, it would go worldwide, out of control.
Sure.
But anyway, and people might say, oh, this has got to be a hoax, somebody made up or something like that. But no. Let's go to the article from the Daily Mail and the top news organizations in Europe. The Mail Online, I guess is what they call it, the online version of it. But anyway, this is called a jab that could put a stop to stress without slowing us down. Now, a jab in English speak, as I like to say, is a vaccine.
Yeah.
So they're proposing that they give people a vaccine that would reduce stress, stop stress without slowing people down. It sounds, again, what could possibly go wrong?
Who wants to be stressed?
And here's a little quote from it. The Stanford team has adapted a herpes virus to carry engineered neuroprotective genes deep into the brain to neutralize the rogue hormones, ... So, of course, the rogue hormones are parts of our brain, things that the normal operating processes of our brain, and this is, again, to a virus that is a communicable virus, that herpes virus. It can be transmitted between people, and it's engineered, and they've tried it in rats. The article goes on to say, and it works in rats. And I think we should. They're like, I think we should go ahead and put this out in the general population. This was a 2010 article. Of course, they're a little bit behind the military.
Right.
But to me, I don't see what could possibly go wrong.
No, nor do I.
When you attach a virus, a communicable virus, to a thing that changes people's brains so they don't have such intense desires and feelings and stress. So, I think it's great because then you could just kind of distribute that out to the general populace. Us elitists, I mean, we'll have a little inoculation against it, so we can get upset if we want, but all the little slaves out there, they will not be concerned about, if we have tyranny, if we have Obama come out and say, hey, you know what, as part of NDA, I can arrest or kill any U.S. citizen.
Okay,
just
I
by
can't
my
get
demand.
excited about that.
Or the Pentagon could come out and the top brass and be like, you know what, we don't get our orders from Congress anymore. We get it from the UN.
No problem. I'm not stressed.
You could just put this on the news and people would just not be concerned. It would be like, orderly, like, yeah, that's probably bad, but what can we do?
We certainly can't get stressed.
I know. So who's to say, since this is from like 2005 or whatever, that this has not already been implemented? These are just the things that happen to leak out, what's gone out.
Right.
You can think of all the billions and trillions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars that the military spent on research of these type of things. You can just think of the military applications for this, not to mention the evil banker elitist. When you can corrupt a country, it's quite lucrative. Trust me. Anyway, so you could just imagine what they've actually done and what they've kept secret and what they could actually be doing, because quite frankly, I can tell people just about anything that's true, that's totally horrendous, and people will be like, yeah, but what can we do? Or that's hard to believe.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, you better start believing this stuff, because this is going to totally reshape your world. And to follow up on that, NPR will tell you about the upcoming stuff for the New World Order, and they had a program just the other day about a pill that was being used to eliminate memory and emotion, ostensibly for PTSD. But once again, you can say that it is for some PTSD or it's about religion, but what it's actually doing is taking out a whole part of your brain function. And they've been working on these things for long before they even thought about
Nancy,
going into Afghanistan. Go ahead.
I hear you say these words, but for some reason it doesn't make an impact on me. I don't get upset. I'm like, yeah, the Pentagon's developing viruses that will make me not be able to get upset, but it doesn't seem to worry me.
Yeah,
anyway,
I don't.
Go ahead.
Well, okay, then
Please continue.
Yeah, I realize that you do seem to be extremely calm these days. But I wanted to expand, what they've been working on with the mind, besides just going in with carrying stuff into your mind and your body with viruses and bacteria and all, and spend a little time talking about how they have been researching putting things literally into your brain and studying the brain waves and being able to move in and out of your mind. And we'll start first with a clip as when they were putting a chip into a monkey's brain. If you could play that.
To start testing on humans.
With astonishing dexterity, a monkey reaches out to grab and turn a handle with a robotic arm controlled not by its hands, but directly by its brain. With the power of thought, it can alter the speed and direction of the arm, twisting the joints to home in on its target. It shows no signs of distress from the wires leading from electrodes in its brain to a computer. The reward for each turn of the handle, a drink of water. The mind control works through a device implanted directly into the motor cortex, the part of the...
by the wires in his brain, but the poor deer was stressed because he had no water.
Maybe he had a vaccine beforehand.
That could be. Oh, that's an excellent point.
I don't think I would be very stressed.
Excellent point. Yes. I mean, it's just really sad, because again, this was from a piece of stuff that was planted deep in its brain. They actually have trained monkeys, though, to use their minds alone. But in the next clip, we'll see some technology that they have moved the sensors to the outside of the brain. If you could play that, where they want to do this supposedly for helping human beings. And we've got a fellow here who is a paraplegic.
He had been to my office. He had seen me typing with a stick in my mouth. I type 30 to 35 words a minute with a stick in my mouth. He thought that was pretty cool, but he said, a buddy of mine is doing this mouse thing. You need to see it. I trained with the emotive headset for about 20 minutes. Trained it to push, just using my brain. Not touching anything, no remote controls, no nothing. Just think real hard. The push, it went, think left, it moved left, think right, it moved right. Got it trained, it took 20 minutes. Then we turned on the program. I was able to type with it. I can't demonstrate it because I can't use my hands. You don't use your hands at all. It's just thought. You can't see thought. So it's strange because people look at it and go, are you really doing it? And I go, kind of concentrate, and a program would open or a program would close. Very cool.
Thank
Once
you.
the emotive wireless headset is placed...
This same company is already on the market. Games, computer games that do this. And of course, no surprise, they are concentrated in the war games where people are killing people with their minds. There's a sickness
to establish the user's...
that I just, it sickens me to just go there. But besides the computer game, this kind of these little fluffy applications of this stuff, to move it a bit farther into how this stuff can just be stuck on your head and read what's inside, I'd like to play the next clip about cat ears. And yes, indeed, cat ears.
Control objects just by thinking about them is being developed in labs all over the world. But in Japan, a neurotechnology company is taking serious brainwave science and turning it into fun.
In Tokyo, they're all ears for the latest in high-tech fashion. The headwear is called Nico Mimi, or cat ears in Japanese, and it doubles as a communication device. Nico Mimi can be controlled by the wearer's thoughts and emotions. Nico Mimi was created by a company called Neurowave. They're using basic, non-invasive neuroimaging technologies and adapting them for the fashion world. Apart from the ears, Nico Mimi has 2 brainwave sensors that can read the emotions of the wearer. Red brainwaves show nervousness or concentration. Green waves indicate a relaxed state of mind. The ears shoot up when the wearer is nervous or focused. They flatten when the wearer is relaxed. When a person is relaxed but also focused on a specific activity, like a game or reading a book, the ears swirl around in a circle. When brain activity is low, the ears just flap gently back and forth. One of the creators of Nico Mimi says she wanted to come up with a communication device that could be enjoyed by everyone, and in Japan, cats are popular. When cats are frightened or want to scare away an enemy, they flatten their ears. But with Nico Mimi, flat ears mean a relaxed state of mind. So we have changed the meaning to suit human perceptions. To humans, when cat ears flatten, it's kind of cute. The science of neurocontrol is being developed in labs all over the world. The aim is to help the disabled or victims of locked-in syndrome. In Germany, Neurowave technology is being tested for operating a car. In Lausanne, Switzerland, scientists are adapting it for wheelchair users. And while Nico Mimi may seem like a trivial use for the technology, Nakano says it brings serious science closer to ordinary people. She also says Nico Mimi could be adapted as a communication tool for children or the elderly, who may be shy around strangers. But for now, Nico Mimi is aimed at the curious and the fashion conscious. It was my first time having cat ears. That experience itself was very amusing, but it also swirls around on your head, so it was riveting. This dentist was also intrigued. I find it funny that cat ears were moving in conjunction with my feelings. But for this university student in Tokyo, there are certain situations where the cat ears should be left at home.
If I wear this during job interviews, and if they knew I'm nervous, it may be a sensitive issue.
Neurowave says it plans to launch the Nico Mimi internationally later this year at a price of several $100s per unit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they introduce these things so often in such innocuous ways to get you.
Cat ears are not innocuous. Oh yeah.
Oh, you don't think so? But
So
but yeah, I
cute.
mean, we are introduced into these things in a way that makes us feel that there's no harm, there's nothing to worry about here. But something
They're just reading your mind.
they're just reading
But
your
it's
mind.
cat ears.
But yeah, I mean, it's so cute.
You know what really cracked me up is when they're like, you know, with cats, their ears go flat, you know, when they're scared, but with humans, it's cute. You know? You know, I was like, what? What are you talking about?
Something that I wanted to throw in here, we're talking about how long some of this stuff has been around. In 1999, I mean, at a neuroscience conference given by the UN in Tokyo, I mean, because they wouldn't be saying these things if there wasn't already a lot of foundation to say something like this. In their declaration, they said, today, we have the intellectual, physical, and financial resources to master the power of the brain itself and to develop devices to touch the mind and even control or erase consciousness. And a part of what they were talking about is that were talking about technologies that could cause the blocking of the freedom of will of a human being at a subliminal level or installation into the consciousness or subconsciousness of a human being of information which will cause faulty perception of reality. And these things would be by, among other things that probably are not listed here by now because that was so long ago, directed energy beam, radio frequencing, laser and acoustic mechanisms to incapacitate people. It's just astounding.
And most people might hear those categories and hear those quotes and be like, oh, come on. But did you really think that computers could control, a person with their brain could control a computer to type and to open and close programs, or that it could read your emotions
right.
and that read your fear or nervousness, or that there are vaccines that can go out and attack certain parts of the brain and make you feel less, not give you the ability to feel intense emotions and beliefs anymore. I mean, this stuff is not out of the realm of possibility and is indeed happening. And Orwell doesn't really have anything on these types of technology. And you could just imagine Homeland Security, be like, oh, put on these little cat ears, they're cute. Oh, I'm sorry, you're a
right.
terrorist, we're going to have to kill you, or whatever, we're going to imprison you because you're obviously, you're an extremist. And so they could tell you they could just spoof whatever they want to say, oh, we scanned your brain and this.
Oh, certainly.
Or they could actually read people's brains in general, not like it's perfectly, if you think a complex thought, they're not going to be able to read it at this stage, apparently. But who knows? I mean, the Pentagon is not creating cat ears.
All right, exactly. Yes, certainly.
And they don't have, just a little bit of money to spend on this research and development. They've got billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, and lots of time.
And they work in conjunction
best
with
brains
all
out
these,
there to make the best cat ears available.
That's right, and they work in conjunction
to kill people.
With the biggest universities, the biggest minds. There's so much money that they've been pouring billions and billions of dollars worldwide.
And through compartmentalization, people don't know. They're just working on a small little piece or for a plausible, reason. Oh, it's for cat ears.
Yeah,
but they don't actually know it's for something that can be used for an evil purpose. They're just developing the capabilities, the technology.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I think that's one of the really sad things is so many well-intentioned scientists work on these things because they think, oh, we're going to help mankind, not realizing that the biggest power that they are creating is being tapped right back into the most nefarious institutions of all time. But Brett mentioned something about reading your mind. They're already well on their way to doing that. I mean, that's some of the research that was just, I was just reeling last night reading about some of this stuff. Is that when I am forming these words here, they're just words to you, but inside my mind, my brain is creating a certain frequency, a certain wave. Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
I've seen you.
Excuse me.
I wondered where all that was coming from. But so they are learning to read these frequencies, and so now they are actually formulating words, understanding the words that you think, and even being able to put those words back into your mind, you know, synthetically creating the same vibrations that your brain is making when you are saying these words, and then entering that into your brain, so that inside your brain you hear the words that they have created. It's just, again, it's you just have to
but the thing
catch
is,
your breath.
it's not so much the technology in itself is that scary. I mean, some of it is, you know, when you're talking about vaccines that change your brains.
How they would use it.
But who's using it?
And who's using it.
Who and for what purposes? I mean, if you look through history, I mean, slavery and people that just have a will to power, and, you know, kings and oligarchs and, you know, all these things are a total common theme. That's like the modus operandi of people who get too much power and too much wealth, is that they go power mad and they're like, I want to enslave the world and have them all at my fingertips, or I want to take over the world. I want more and more power. And right now we have the biggest wealth concentrations in the history of, you know, our history. So you could just imagine what these people are, how these people are using it, who have control over the military-industrial complex, who have control over our government, who pull off things like 911 and have absolutely no morals whatsoever, who have the power of the Federal Reserve being a private banking institution, basically leeching off the entire economy of the United States and other countries. And so we're in a lot of trouble.
Yes, and that you brought up the wealth gap, and this is something that is very well, acknowledged within the new technology revolution, is that the job divide is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. That gap between the haves, the people who own the technology, who own the money, who own the power, will be so much more concentrated now, and the middle will just be, as you see it, just going and going and going and going, and there'll be a big mass of people on the bottom and a few very powerful people on the top.
Getting banker bailouts.
Yeah, I know.
On our tax dollars.
Oh, that's another thing I wanted to remind people, that a lot of this technology that is there to control you, you're getting to pay for it. Hot dog, isn't that something? You would think you would get something back for it besides them.
Maybe an re-engineered brain through a virus.
Re-engineered brain.
I think I did get something out of it, but it doesn't concern me.
Or a chip. We're going the RFID chips. We need to talk about that. But we don't have any more time left, but we will revisit some of this technology stuff. And so I'd like to thank Allie and Juanita, and say goodbye and join us again.